I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Welcome back, and what a delight to have back with us today Megan Barth. She's the founder of ReaganBaby.com, and she was just sipping something out of a presidential Ronald Reagan library cup. Hi, Megan.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah.
My friends are so good to me. I'm actually out of town this week and able to plug in with you remotely from here, and they always set me up with a Ronald Reagan mug.
That's wonderful. Good to see you. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Mary. Thank you.
What'd you think of the debate this past week?
I was there. I was fortunate enough to get a ticket. I was inside the event at the Venetian Theater. The moderators got booed again. And I have to say that I was one of them booing. I was really taken aback by the happy hour debate as well as the main debate. And the reason being because CNN wanted a cage match, and that's how they were setting up the debate to be, specific to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump had mentioned this at the main debate. You know, he's put on the defensive continually. Jeb Bush, when he opened in his first opportunity to speak at the debate, immediately trashed Donald Trump and insulted his intelligence. And I'd have a stern warning for the GOP that when you attack Donald Trump, you're also attacking his supporters who, from my experience, I have a lot of family members, military men, housewives. My mother, for example, are all Trump supporters. And they've been conservatives for as long as I can remember, and since they've been registered to vote. But especially after the bill that was passed yesterday by Speaker Ryan, funding Obamacare, funding the refugees and illegal immigration, funding Planned Parenthood, the conservative base of the GOP and the GOP base in general is sick and tired of being stabbed in the back.
Yeah, and the final vote of that just came down a few moments ago, and it passed, and quite a few Republicans signed on. This does take our conversation just for a moment in another direction. The Freedom Caucus subordinated to the Paul Ryan election to become Speaker in hopes that they would get something in return. Instead, they got this, and quite a few Republicans voted for it. I can't help but think that the Republican Party inside the House of Representatives is a complete shambles.
It is in complete shambles. We did not elect the largest majority since the Civil War to take over Congress last November in order to continue the Obama administration's policies, whether they be domestic or foreign. The voters spoke up in the last election, and we spoke up based on the change that was promised to us by the GOP leadership. And this change, including stopping the Obama administration, repealing and replacing Obamacare. And when it comes to the protection of life, the very tenet of the conservative base, we continue to fund Planned Parenthood and use taxpayer funding for abortions, unfortunately late-term abortions, and all abortions. And this is a direct slap in the face to not only the caucus, the conservative caucus within Congress, but to the general GOP base that has continually given them victories, and all they've done is squandered those victories and really just kind of ignored the will of the GOP base and the American people. And I will say this again, Jeb Bush is polling at 2 or 3%. Lindsey Graham is on the happy hour stage. John Kasich is, I think, at 0. Yet they all want to take turns from the establishment, taking swipes at Ted Cruz or taking swipes at Donald Trump. Hugh Hewitt even took a swipe to Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, and compared him to a ruthless killer like Winston Churchill. Where in the heck is that coming from, and how is that a conservative voice?
Well, I just don't understand. I really don't know why they're attacking one another, which is so ridiculous. And you make a great point. like them or not, when you attack a candidate, you're attacking their supporters, and I think people forget that, and they continue to go down. Jeb Bush is now, you know, sadly, he's done. I would say that the happy hour crew is done. So you're down to 3. You're down to Trump, Rubio, and Cruz. And it would seem to me that the smartest thing they could do now is not attack each other, just put forth their message. So I don't know, where's the RNC in this from your perspective? I mean, they got to be scrambling, because the popularity of Trump is primarily a contempt vote against the RNC.
Yeah, and I had gone to an RNC party post-debate. It was an invite-only party, and I was able to kind of finagle my way in. And so I met Reince Priebus, and I met a few others in the communications field within the RNC, and I told them particularly what I just told you. You have to stop the circular firing squad, because all you're doing is hurting yourself and hurting your base. And I told them specifically, if the insults continue at Trump or at Cruz, you will continue to basically solidify their support, because you're insulting their support. They're in a little bit of a quandary right now. If Donald Trump gets the delegates, he will be the nominee. And from just judging by the polling, when it comes to the security and safety of our nation, Donald Trump polls at 50% of the voters. So the foreign policy right now is front and center, as because of the San Bernardino attacks, the terrorist attacks, because of all of the homegrown terror that we have going on, because of our loose borders. And so the American people, I believe, will take to the polls once again on behalf of the safety and security of our nation, which Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton certainly have not provided for us, specifically after terrorist attacks, when they come out and call for gun control, further gun control, when they can't name ISIS Islamic, when they can't say Islamic radical terrorism. So the people are aware of this, and they are fearful. 76% of the American people believe that there will be another terrorist attack. And this is a very sad time that we live in. I don't remember a time in my life, even after 9/11, we had a leader in the White House, George Bush, whether you agreed with his policies or not. He came to the dais, he spoke directly to the American people, and he gave them a sense that he was in charge, he was in control, and we were going to be safe from that point forward.
Yes, amen. Part of the problem now is that the RNC and Priebus and his bunch gave an indication that there may be a broker convention in an attempt to keep Trump out. I don't know if they shot themselves in the foot. It seems to me they may have shot themselves in a vital organ.
Well, they did, and they also basically just committed Harry-Carry by allowing this budget deal to pass. So the GOP is on life support right now, and the only way that they are going to get off of life support is to coalesce, get rid of the noise, which is the happy hour debate, and the other guys that are polling in the single digits and the low single digits. I realize that we have some time right now in front of us to really look at polling, but when we have Cruz, Rubio, and Trump running ramshod over everybody, let's get rid of the noise. Let's have those candidates, whether it be Fiorina, Carson, Christie, Paul, start coalescing behind the conservative message and a candidate. I think what you're going to see is a bifurcation in the GOP, whereby you have the establishment that wants to back Rubio. And oh, by the way, I heard multiple times now a rumor that the establishment is really pushing for a Rubio Kasich ticket. And I started laughing because Kasich is polling at 0%. He has no broad appeal. Why would you run that type of ticket? Why would you give the GOP base that ticket? Rubio does not poll high in trustworthiness because of his dalliances and deals with the likes of Chuck Schumer. And I thought Rand Paul did an excellent job of comparing, from a debate tactic, for comparing and putting Marco Rubio in the same class as Chuck Schumer. So this bifurcation that's going to be created is the establishment GOP, like we see with Ryan and the deals that we're getting, and it's going to be the conservative base, like the Freedom Caucus and the GOP, and I think that's where the winning ticket is. So however that ticket looks, it might be a Trump-Cruz ticket. And I've said that for months, because then if there is a concern about Donald Trump's conservatism, and if there is a concern, for example, of his former belief or current belief in single-payer health care or gun control or what have you, then you would have Cruz to kind of rein that concern in and say, look, I'm the constitutional stalwart here. I can kind of keep an eye on Donald Trump, and I can also navigate through the legislative process and kind of act as Trump's mentor, even though he's sitting in the VP spot. I think that ticket could be a winning ticket, because then you have the conservatives within the Republican base that look kind of cross-eyed at Donald Trump and would put then their vote in Cruz on the ticket instead of Trump. And it also would send a huge signal to the GOP that, you know, Trump and Cruz are going to take this on.
Boy, that opens up a lot of comments. First of all, I think you're absolutely spot on with that, because you don't see Trump and Cruz really going after each other. They're poked each other, but for the most part, they're protecting each other. The other thing is, if that ticket was to be the ticket, and if that ticket wins, guess what? They take over the RNC. All right, we'll be right back with Megan Barth in just a moment, and you can go to ReaganBaby.com. That's the website, and get a lot of information. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and with our good friend Megan Barth is with us today. She's the founder of ReaganBaby.com. What a great place for you to go and get a lot of information and stay in touch. She is a conservative commentator and all over the place, so we appreciate the relationship we have to have her on the air with us. And she was at the debate Tuesday there in Las Vegas. All right, so Megan, do you think Iowa and New Hampshire are pretty much clear the field?
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Perry.
Do you think that Iowa and New Hampshire, once those primaries and caucuses are behind us, that'll pretty much clear the field?
Yeah, I believe, you know, if you look at it from historically, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. And you know, I always think that more voices to a debate or to a topic is always a good thing. But at this time, it's really time to narrow down that field. And I think the caucuses will do that for us, and we can kind of solidify and see if that, you know, solidify the GOP base, and then see, like I said, if that split really is going to occur. Because all of the rumors I hear, and I do know a lot of people, and I do know a lot of people that have very good connections within the DC area and the rumor mill. And the rumor mill is, and if you look at the vote, you know, that came down today, there is a lot of squish in the GOP and a lot of shunning of the conservative base, and that certainly needs to change. I wish the GOP would take their turrets, stop pointing them at each other, and point them across the aisle at the Democrat Party, whose presumptive nominee, Hillary Clinton, has declared the GOP her enemy. Yeah. And that is exactly what we need to do. There is a host of facts that we can use against Hillary Clinton, specifically with her lack of accomplishments, the Middle East crisis that we're facing right now, the rise of ISIS, the crisis in Libya, the crisis in Egypt. Just her lying alone to the American people about a terrorist attack can be used against her, and that's where the ammunition needs to be focused, is the Democrat Party and Hillary Clinton.
Well, the DNC seems to be hiding her. I mean, they're not going to do they're not doing a primetime debate. They're going to couch her in between movies and football games and call that a debate. So do you think we'll ever see a Hillary Clinton in front of a Fox News panel?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I mean, when, you know, if you recall, the first time that she hit the campaign trail, I think it was back in March or April, she hid in a huge black van and didn't talk to reporters. Yeah. The woman is constantly hiding behind some sort of facade, or whether it's building a secret server. There is nothing that's transparent about her except for the lies that we continue to find as her emails are constantly released on a weekly basis. We now know, even though, you know, she said due to the fog of war, there was a lot going on she doesn't remember. But now we actually know that help was available for our 4 men in Benghazi and ready to go. And we still don't know where she was that night. We do know that she lied about a video. We don't know who gave the stand down order Those are the types of facts that the American people deserve. And for her to lay blame on the rise of ISIS on climate change, or for her to blame terrorism on the availability of guns or economic disparity, is a joke. And for her to say, well, we must beat ISIS through all means, including social media, but yet her State Department and our Department of Homeland Security didn't even check the social media of a jihadi terrorist that was coming on a K-1 fiance visa, is completely a hypocritical statement. If they aren't going to check social media, then how are they going to beat ISIS through social media?
All right, so the RNC's been given plenty to campaign against her with, all the things that you just listed. Can we trust the RNC to do it?
Well, from what happened today, that no one's trustworthy within the RNC or our Congress. This vote today and what has happened this week, I believe will do a couple things. One, you will see the rise in the polling numbers of Cruz and Trump. You will see a backlash against the donations given to the GOP, and you will see an increase in the calls to the halls of Congress. And I certainly do hope that those that are watching will call their congressman if he voted on this piece of garbage, and get behind perhaps a candidate that will beat this incumbent. We do need a cleaning out. We tried, and we've done so since 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014. We are continually putting conservatives in Congress, but yet we aren't getting the results from our votes because of the powers that be. There are a lot of incumbents that need to lose their seats, and the only way that those seats will be lost is if the American people rally behind a conservative and give their money and their time and their efforts to that person.
All right, so we go through the 2016 election cycle. Let's be positive for a moment and say we put more conservatives in the House than in the Senate. Could that be the end of Paul Ryan?
Yeah, I hope so, and his beard. But my dad told me yesterday, he said, I told you could never trust there is never a such thing as a conservative from Madison, Wisconsin. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that will be the end of Paul Ryan, because now, the first thing he does as Speaker, he has the power of the purse. The power of the purse is our balance of power. We could have defunded a lot of these things and not be so terrified of a government shutdown. The messaging from the RNC has to be so different than it is right now. They are so fearful instead of proactive. They are so defensive instead of aggressive. And they have so much ammunition, like I said, to use. And they have the will of the people behind them, except they squash it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the end of Paul Ryan is nigh.
Some polls show that if it's a race between Trump and Hillary, Hillary ekes it out. She ekes out a victory, primarily because Trump's been all over the board. He's been a Democrat, he's been an independent, he's been a Republican, he circles around. Now he's a Republican again, he's winning. But we also know that there's been some pretty harsh statements that he's made against women and other things that will probably come out in the campaign. If you think if it was a Trump versus a Hillary, how you see it, and if Trump was to have Cruz as his running mate, does that pull him out? Does that pull out a victory for Trump?
I think it does, but then let's look at Hillary and perhaps what she's going to do, and this is a ticket that's going to be very tough. I believe that she will choose Julián Castro. He was the mayor of San Antonio and for 3 terms. And then he was just kind of picked to go to the Department of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Julián Castro is the son of the founder of La Raza. So when you look at perhaps a Clinton-Castro ticket, imagine the type of, they're going to play the race card. They are going to vilify the right. They are going to portray us especially with Trump and his illegal immigration stance, as well as his Muslim statement as far as immigration is concerned and visas, they are going to use every Alinsky tactic against the right. So the right needs to understand exactly, identify the enemy, who is the enemy, and what is going to be their messaging. And it's going to be a lot of hyperbole, and it's going to be a lot of attacks on the conservative cause. So if Trump does select someone like Cruz, I believe that Cruz is very aware of these type of tactics that come from the left, and he will be able to formulate a response as well as a counterpoint to those types of attacks.
Don't you think just the subject of terrorism and the lack of conversation thereof, because the general populace of the United States, we do not feel safe, and we do not believe that the left has a handle on this issue, that is the one issue that could swing it to the right?
Yeah, when you look at, and you voted in more elections than I have, but, when you look at historically, if it's foreign policy and if it's national security, the GOP wins hands down every time. Mm-hmm. That's where people go to for the safety and security, is generally they will vote for the GOP candidate. And if you look at the statistics, if you look at numbers, which I love because they don't lie, but when you look at the numbers, people will vote for the candidate who they trust for their safety, for their security, and based on their message. And so that is what is going to be. Will people trust Hillary Clinton? At least knowing people, thinking people that understand the truth, that want to know the truth, that will see what's right in front of them instead of something like climate change. Yes, people will go to the polls and pull the lever for the candidate they can trust. And Hillary Clinton's polling numbers in trustworthiness is in the tank.
Okay, what happens if she's indicted? Now, she may not be convicted, but she could get an indictment.
Well, there's always Uncle Joe waiting in the wings. And, I could see something like that happening. The thing is that the DNC cannot give the nomination to an outspoken, admitted socialist, because then they would have to adopt even though, in my opinion, the DNC is comprised of a bunch of socialists and Marxists, I don't believe that they are going to give Bernie Sanders the nom, because then they would have to basically say, we're no longer the Democrat Party, we're the Democrat Socialist Party, and they don't want that tag. So I think perhaps Joe Biden would be waiting in the wings, and I think that's exactly what he's doing in case there is an indictment that comes down. Yeah,
it'd be interesting. Well, again, a lot to wade through as the months are now rapidly coming upon us as we get into the primary season within just a matter of weeks now. When people go to ReaganBaby.com, what do they get?
Well, they get a lot of facts, they get a lot of truth, and they get my writing and my commentary. So my latest, Slaves of Sharia, is about the San Bernardino attack and how we need to identify Sharia when we talk about Islam and the threat that really exists. I have a lot of studies in there that I think it would be a very good tool to understand maybe perhaps why we're in the situation we are in right now.
All right, ReaganBaby.com. 15 seconds. Over your right shoulder, there's a pink stocking. Is that yours?
No, it's my girlfriend Lee's. I'll fill it with something later that's not full if she's nice for the next couple days.
Okay. Thanks, Megan. You're a delight. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Okay. Thank you, and you as well. Thanks, guys.
Right. Again, ReaganBaby.com. Go there. A lot of great information. ReaganBaby.com. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.